Francisca Albanese, the United Nations Special Rapporteur for the Palestinian occupied territories, one of the great Israel haters, one of the great Jew haters in the world, she had a press conference a couple of days ago to announce her brand new report. And her report is titled Genocide in Gaza, a Collective Crime. Okay. And it makes all kinds of wild accusations against Israel. And she also told the committee that Israel has no authority over the Palestinians. She urged an end to impunity. She called on the international community to take decisive action against Israel. And she then went on X and she accused Israel of torturing Palestinians by hanging. And the response in the Italian legislature came from Esther Mieli, who is a senator in Italy from the Brothers of Italy party, that is a national conservative right-wing populist political party in Israel. It's also the political party of Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni. Okay, and we're going to watch this response to Francisca Albanese's report from, again, this is Esther Mieli in the Italian Parliament. Have a look.
Quello che è successo ieri alla Camera dei Deputati è qualcosa di sconcertante. La sinistra, VS, PD e 5 Stelle hanno organizzato una conferenza stampa legittima con Francesca Albanese. Ma Francesca Albanese distorce il suo mandato per propagandare antisemitismo e strizzare l'occhio ad Hamas e alle fake news. L'Albanese è quella che l'8 agosto del 2025 diceva: ma Hamas, non credo che la gente abbia idea di che cosa sia Hamas. Hamas ha vinto le elezioni, diceva l'Albanese. È fondamentale capire che quando si parla di Hamas non si deve necessariamente pensare a dei tagliagole, non è così, ma sono terroristi. L'articolo 7 della Carta Costitutiva di Hamas recita che l'ultimo giorno non verrà finché tutti i musulmani non combatteranno contro gli ebrei e i musulmani non li uccideranno. Vieni e uccidolo, c'è scritto. Sono dei terroristi, non ci sono altre parole, ma l'Albanese sostiene che i terroristi vanno capiti e che stanno portando una rivoluzione globale. L'Albanese è quella che il 7 ottobre 2023, proprio il giorno del massacro, il giorno in cui Hamas ha trucidato 1200 persone innocenti, twittava minimizzando l'attacco terroristico. Basti ricordare quando il 28 ottobre 2025 ha difeso la ristoratrice che ha cacciato dal suo ristorante una famiglia israeliana con bambini perché i sionisti non sono i benvenuti. Per non parlare del tweet cancellato il 6 maggio del 2025, come documentato da Human Watch, in Italia, scriveva, peggio dei sostenitori e negatori del genocidio ci sono i calcolatori, come le ONG che non si schierano per non infastidire la politica, compromettere i finanziamenti o provocare la brigata ebraica o i loro compari. E conclude: spero di vivere abbastanza per vedervi vergognare. Poi forse si è vergognata lei e ha cancellato il tweet. Nel novembre 2022 dichiarò anche durante una conferenza stampa di Hamas: avete il diritto di resistere. Ed ancora nell'articolo scritto nel 2014, tutto certificato da fonti aperte, cui ha istituito sul fatto che le richieste di Hamas e della Jihad islamica erano molto ragionevoli. Potrei andare avanti per ore, passando per le parole al sindaco Massari a Reggio Emilia o quelle pronunciate dopo l'assalto alla redazione del quotidiano da stampa. Il 22 marzo 2025 critica invece la definizione più diffusa di antisemitismo come repressiva e ieri lo ha ribadito alla Camera dei Deputati, dando la linea alla sinistra di Elli, Conte e Fratoianni sul DDL antisemitismo in discussione qui al Senato. Ma fatemi leggere il modo in cui i terroristi fanno affidamento sul lavoro dell'Albanese e prendo solo spunto da tante dichiarazioni pubblicate. 11 luglio 2023 sul sito web di Hamas, Sirav TV, dove il portavoce di Hamas elogia il discorso della relatrice. Oppure il 26 marzo del 2024 sul sito web The Palestinian Information Center viene riportato: Hamas ha affermato che le dichiarazioni della relatrice albanese sono prove sufficienti di quello che sta avvenendo. E ancora il 2 settembre 2023 sul canale Telegram di Al-Aqsa TV gestito da Hamas ha pubblicato un'immagine con la seguente citazione del portavoce di Hamas: elogiamo la posizione di Francesca Albanese, in cui ha condannato le violazioni del governo relative alla grave occupazione contro il nostro popolo. Questi sono fatti veri. Ieri avete fatto il circo, umiliando il palazzo. Ve l'abbiamo detto su Annun e avete fischiettato. Ve lo stiamo dicendo sull'Albanese e continuate a fischiettare.
So that was very powerful, and she's citing that information, that report from United Nations Watch, UN Watch. You should definitely follow UN Watch. They really track a lot of the nefarious, immoral, corrupt stances and actions and declarations and votes and condemnations that you see in the United Nations. And I want to get back to Esther Mieli in a bit, and why I mentioned what party she was from, because I think it's extremely significant. But before that, let's just note that this is far from the first time that the members of the Italian government have called out Albanese. Back in October, when Albanese presented another anti-Semitic falsehood report at the United Nations against Israel, back in October, Italy blasted her, and she's from Italy. And in the statement by the Italian representative at the United Nations, they specifically said, the Italian representative said, the report presented today by Special Rapporteur Albanese is entirely devoid of credibility and impartiality. As Italy, we are not surprised. So they came right out and said that she has no credibility whatsoever, and they blasted her at the time. So again, she is someone who has been already called out by her fellow Italians for being wildly anti-Israel. And I should add, Francisca Albanese denies after October 7th, she basically said that Israel did not have the right of self-defense, saying that Hamas was right for rising up. And she was, at the time, she contextualized the October 7th massacre, saying it did not happen in a vacuum, which is, of course, language that rationalizes the mass murder and rape and hostage taking, saying that it was a response, a legitimate response to something. She consistently brands Israel as genocidal and settler colonial, and basically denies the state of Israel's right to exist. So she's far from being an impartial rapporteur for what's going on in Israel. And the United Nations in general is very anti-Israel. The United Nations General Assembly has adopted, look at this, from 2015 to 2024, the United Nations General Assembly has adopted, how many resolutions does it say here? It has adopted 173 resolutions against Israel in that decade, from 2015 to 2024. 173 resolutions against Israel and 80 total against other countries. Okay, the United Nations Human Rights Council has adopted 112 resolutions against Israel, 45 against Syria, 16 against Iran, 11 against Russia, and 4 against Venezuela. So you have some of the worst violators of human rights in the world, and you add them all up and they don't come close to the number of resolutions against Israel. Okay, Iran 16, 112 for Israel. So the United Nations is so corrupt and so biased, and so it's basically upside down. Look, the United Nations Human Rights Council, members who sit on the current Human Rights Council include Angola, which is a brutal dictatorship in Africa. It includes China, which is not exactly known for human rights. These are countries that are on the Human Rights Council. North Korea is on the Human Rights Council. It's just absolute absurdity. And let me also add regarding Francisca Albanese that she, according to her Wikipedia page, she and her husband, they moved away from Italy, and they currently live, get this, as of last year, as of 2025, they moved to Tunisia. Now, Tunisia is 99% Muslim. Think about that. Francisca Albanese just moved to Tunisia, which is 99% Muslim. And that's really interesting because she's also a senior advisor on migration and forced displacement for the nonprofit Arab Renaissance for Democracy and Development. So here she isn't basically an activist helping Arabs helping populations from the Arab world migrate into Europe. Meaning, when you look at all this mass Arab migration into Europe, she's actually someone who helps facilitate that, and she demonizes Israel. That's who Francisca Albanese is. And now she moved to Tunisia, which is 99% Muslim, where Christians are persecuted. According to Open Doors World Watch List, Tunisia is ranked 31st out of the 50 worst countries for persecution of Christians. And that's where she just moved to. This European Italian woman just moved there. So that's kind of suspicious. And the only conclusion we can come to is that she must have converted to Islam, or at the very least, she's so in love with Muslims and Islamists and wants to help them take over Europe. So here she's helping mass migration, she's demonizing Israel, and then she finally actually moves to Tunisia. So that's who Francisca Albanese really is. Now, I want to go back just very briefly to Esther Mieli, this senator in the Italian parliament who was calling her out. Now, Esther Mieli is an interesting person, because I mentioned that the party that she's a part of, Brothers of Italy, is the right-wing conservative nationalist populist party. So first, the reason that's so important is that all over the world today, take the Bolsonaro supporters in Brazil, okay, or the Vox supporters in Spain, or the Viktor Orban supporters in Hungary, or the Geert Wilders supporters in the Netherlands, or the Tommy Robinson and all of his followers out in England, or the Nigel Farage voters in England who are also populist nationalists, the Le Pen voters in France. You can go down the list. The populist nationalist right-wing conservative parties all over the world are pro-Israel. The new president of Chile, who was just announced, the new leader of Chile, who was just elected, a populist nationalist right-wing conservative who's also pro-Israel. Same thing in Argentina with Javier Milei. All over the world, that's the populist, nationalist, right-wing conservatives who are defending Israel, who are opposing Israel's enemies. And that is so significant because it breaks the old paradigm of anti-Semitism, that the hard right, the conservative right, is anti-Semitic, and it was the left that was liberal and open-minded. Now everything's flipped. So it's these populist, nationalist, right-wing conservatives. And what's more interesting is that Esther Mieli actually has Jewish origins. She's, so here, Jews who traditionally tend to associate politically with the left, especially in Europe, this is very interesting. I didn't know this before I started looking into who she was when I saw this speech, but Esther Mieli is the granddaughter of a Holocaust survivor. Her father, Alberto Mieli, was deported to Auschwitz during World War II, but he survived. She was also previously a spokesperson for the Jewish community of Rome. So she is connected to her Jewish roots, but in her political life, in her political campaign, when she ran for office, she did not make her Jewish background an issue at all. So she doesn't publicize it too much. But again, she has Jewish background. She's the granddaughter of a Holocaust survivor. So and I'm bringing this up because she is in the parliament as part of the right-wing populist nationalist conservative party. And that shows you that Jews all over the world also who are standing up for their people are also more and more associating with the populist nationalist conservative right all over the world. And that's a big shift in the paradigm of what we think about in terms of Jewish politics. But the main point of this video is just to, this exposure of who Francisca Albanese is, and this great shout out, this great call out, I should say, by Esther Mieli. And it kind of makes me curious. I think I want to learn more about Esther Mieli, maybe even try to meet her one day. All right, folks, that's the video for now. Thank you for watching. Thank you for sharing all the material and helping the channel grow. Please be sure to tell people about it. And please, of course, as always, check out all the content at Israel365.com.